wrong trusting God. You'll surely go wrong if you don't trust him. Do not add to his words, lest he reprove you and you be found a liar. So not wanting to supplement God's word with human speculation. Don't do that. He says, lest God reprove you and you be found a liar. And then a statement, somewhat of a prayer. 2 things I request of you. Deprive me not before I die. So there's 2 things I'd like to have through my life. Remove falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food you prescribe for me. I count that as 3, so I'm not sure how this works out. But what's happening here is it's a prayer really for good character and for circumstances that will encourage your character. Let's read it again. 2 things I request of you. Deprive me not before I die. First of all, remove falsehood and lies far from me. Does he mean keep me away from people who are false and lying? No doubt. And does he mean keep me from being false? Keep me from lying? Lord, help me not to be a liar. Help me to be true. And then give me neither poverty nor riches. Lord, I don't want to be so wealthy and I don't want to be so poor, but feed me with the food you prescribe for me. I guess really it's 2 with a little addition there. Lord, you know what's best for me. So put me in the place that is going to be the best for me. You do what you prescribe for me. The reason in verse 9, lest I be full and deny you and say, who is the Lord? If I get too much, money's a pretty powerful thing. And a lot of times you see someone who they didn't have money, but then they slowly got more and more and more money. And you watch how they act and how they live, and they start going further and further and further away from God and just have no time for God. Or, lest I be poor and steal and profane the name of my God. Do not malign a servant to his master, lest he curse you and you be found guilty. So, when you're with a person, don't speak against their servants. Don't start bad-mouthing that person's servant or helper. Don't malign them. Lest that person that you're speaking to curses you and you be found guilty, or lest word gets back to the person who you've been speaking against. It's better to just keep it to yourself. If you have some thought about something, you don't need to tell it to anybody else. It's not going to do anybody any good. There is a generation that curses its father and does not bless its mother. There is a generation that is pure in its own eyes, yet is not washed from its filthiness. There is a generation, oh, how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up or arrogant. There is a generation whose whose teeth are like swords, and whose fangs are like knives, to devour the poor from off the earth and the needy from among men. So what's being given to us here is a picture of 4 kinds of evil people. First of all, the disrespectful. And then secondly, the hypocrite or the pretender. Thirdly, the proud person. And then finally, the greedy. So all 4 of those, a description really of evil men, being disrespectful to everything that one ought to be respectful to, being a pretender, being two-faced, being proud or arrogant, and then being a very greedy person. Now you have in the last part of chapter 30 what are called numerical proverbs. The leech has two daughters crying, "Give, give." There are three things that are never satisfied. Four things never say it is enough. So just beginning there in verse 15, always crying out, give and give and give and wanting. And then three things that are never ever satisfied. There's never enough of these, and four that never say enough. One is the grave. People are always dying. Two is the barren womb, women that want children. And then the earth that is not satisfied with water, just parched ground. And then the fire that never says it is enough. And we see all the drought and the fires and there in Arizona right now. Going on, the eye that mocks his father and scorns obedience to his mother, the ravens of the valley will pick it out, and the young eagles will eat it. There is a judgment that came upon children in that age, and then they would wind up actually, as they would be hanging there, their bodies would hang there, and eventually the birds of the air would come, grotesque as it is, and pick out their eyes off of their body. Not a good thing to mock your father. Not a good thing to scorn obedience to your mother. It doesn't do you good, and you won't wind up doing well. I remember once talking to my older brother around the time that my father died. And I remember my brother, as I was heated up about something, and he said, "Robert," he said, "you better be careful about what you're saying right now." And I remember he's 11 years older than me. He's always been 11 years older than me. He's still 11 years older than me. He's a great person and a great brother. But I can remember just as a younger person thinking, he's right. There's just something, he's given me some good advice. Be careful what you're saying right now. Watch what think carefully before you run off at the mouth. Verse 18, there are three things which are too wonderful for me, or just unable to really understand. Yes, four which I do not understand. One is the way of an eagle in the air. You can't see what happens when an eagle flies by. There's no trace of it. You can't figure it out. How did that eagle just fly by like that? Or the way of a serpent on a rock. You see a snake, you can see them slithering across a rock, and then they're gone, and there's nothing there. There's nothing left behind them. You don't know what it is. You can't explain. How does a snake do that? The way of a ship in the midst of the sea. After a ship has gone by and it's sailed so far along, there's nothing left behind it really to help you explain it. And then the mystery of romance and the way of a man with a virgin. This is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, "I have done no wickedness." And so that's just thrown in there. It's been spoken of a lot. For three things the earth is perturbed, yes, four count it, for four it cannot bear up. So here are some things that are very, very unbearable. There's four of them. A servant when he reigns, shouldn't be reigning. A fool when he's filled with food, it's unbearable to see that. A hateful or hated woman when she is married can cause so much trouble. And a maidservant who succeeds her mistress. And she was just a maid, and she became now the mistress. Unbearable, those 4 things. There are 4 things which are little on the earth, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their food in the summer. Ants are so small, they're so fragile, they're so weak, yet they can carry 4 or 5 times their weight, which we couldn't do. One of the things they do, even though they're so small, is they prepare their food in the summer. They're always storing food away. The rock badgers are a feeble folk, yet they make their homes in the crags. These little rock hyraxes, they're called. They're like large rabbits. They're so feeble. They have no real defense. They have no way to defend themselves. What they do is they hide themselves in the rock. The locusts have no king, yet they all advance in ranks. You watch a swarm of locusts. How do they know where to go? But they all move in unison. And then the spider or the gecko, lizard grasps with its hands, and it is in king's palaces. If you've ever seen a leper, a little lizard, they can crawl along the ceiling because each of their feet have suction cups on them. So when they're moving, they always have 1 foot off and the other 3 are on there. I mean, could you crawl up that wall right now and go across? So there are 4 things that are little upon the earth, but they're amazing. There are 3 things which are majestic in pace. Yes, 4 which are stately. I like this because this guy's always saying, there's 3 things I want to talk about. Actually, there's 4. And he does it over and over and over. So there's 3 things which are majestic. There's actually 4 of them. They're stately in the way that they walk. A lion which is mighty among the beasts. You see a lion, especially a male lion, walking through. It's a beautiful thing. It doesn't turn away from any. A lion is not afraid of anybody. A greyhound is the second one, just how they can go around and they can strut around, really. A male goat also. And a king whose troops are with him. What a beautiful picture that is. See a leader with his troops behind him. If you have been foolish in exalting yourself, here's a good prescription. Or if you have devised evil, so whether you're lifting yourself up or you're thinking about evil things, put a hand on your mouth. In other words, just stop it. If you've been exalting yourself, just stop it. If you've been thinking about evil things that you shouldn't be thinking about, just stop it. Just put a hand over your mouth. For as the churning of milk produces butter, and as wringing the nose produces blood, so the forcing of wrath produces strife. You keep churning milk, after a while you keep working it, it's going to produce butter. You grab somebody by the nose and shake them enough, their nose is going to bleed. And if you keep pushing your anger, you're going to produce strife. The words of King Lemuel, the utterance which his mother taught him, again, this is perhaps Solomon. It could have been a name that his mother Bathsheba gave to him. And these are the things he's just saying, my mother taught me these things. And she spoke to him as a wise mother, knowing that he was going to be a leader. What, my son? And what, son of my womb? And what, son of my vows? Number 1, do not give your strength to women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings. So the first thing that she warned him about was against immorality.